Okay, I'd like to call to order the Westerly Public School School Building Subcommittee meeting for Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. The time is 6:01. Members present: Audrey Fobert, Kristen Federico, Chris Lund, Mark McKinnon, Dr. Mark Garceau, Mike Over, Giuseppe Giancarelli, and myself, Justin Hopkins. We also have Ashley Prester from DVVW and Deb Reading from Downs. So I don't believe I missed anyone there. The first order of business is approval of minutes, meeting minutes from our April 10th meeting. If there are no proposed modifications to these minutes, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Next item is public comment. I do not see any members of the public present at our meeting. So we will move to approval of invoices. We do not have, we have no invoices. So yeah, we are, it's a nice evening. So our next item is owner's project manager / architect update.
Absolutely. And tonight we're going to go over 2 bids, results, and ask for action on a recommendation to award to 2 different contractors. And I'm going to hand it over to Ashley. So I got plenty of copies. Sell them out on the street.
All right. So I wanted to remind everyone where we were at. This was the presentation we gave first week of January. The big numbers that you got to think about are the construction budget, which was defined by the MOA back in February of 23 of about 16.9 million. That's what we've been working with the whole time. And our estimate was putting the project at about just under $300,000 under budget. So the bid results we got on Friday, I know it's a lot to read. I'll go over it real quick. We got 3 bidders. A 4th bidder showed up late, so it had to be disposed of. They couldn't accept the bid. We had Allboard at 18.9, HV Collins at 26.1, and Tower at 15.8. So we have 1 bidder that is within budget. They're the apparent low bidder right now. We'll go through their alternates in a little bit in a couple slides. So what that means is that we are recommending, we basically started vetting out Tower. Yesterday we had a meeting with them. And what that means is that base bid, again, we're showing that our construction number at 60% in January was 300,000 below the MOA. The lowest bid at 15.88 is 1,044,000 under project MOA right now. So that is your baseline savings for the Dunn's Corner and Springbrook Elementary in the overall bond right now. So that's good. We want to talk about the alternates. I want to preface this by saying that I understand where the committee's total direction is. It's the entire bond. So I am going to try to advocate for a few of them on this project, but it is the committee's decision on how to look at the overall bond picture. There's a few items in here that we think would be good. And we can, if anybody wants to make a motion on a vote on any of these, we can talk about that. So the first one was the exterior soffits at Dunn's Corner. This number, it was a little suspect from the low bidder from Tower. It's significantly lower than the other 2. It's an aesthetic only. It's not actually actively leaking. Right now, it's pretty much all the drips of the asphalt coming down the sides. So we recommend moving that to a future capital. It's an aesthetic only thing right now. The ADA operators on the doors, these are where in Dunn's Corner you have the niches with the 2 doors that were in series. You took 1 door out years ago. The inner door doesn't have the proper wheelchair clearance for accessible students or teachers for that matter. It's a code requirement. You're currently exposed for possible violation of the ADA Act, I would recommend doing it if you have the money. But if you don't have it now, just have it in the back of your mind that you could do that in the future.
Just the classroom doors or the main entrance as well?
This would just be, there's about 20 doors in Dunn's. It's basically one of each grade and all the specialty rooms that the kids would be going to. So speech and language arts, things like that they're all going to.
But not to get in the building.
Not to get in the building. This isn't a motor operated type of, well, these are motor operated type of doors, but these are just the inside doors. So this involves the electrical, the conduit running to the doors, the new hardware, the stripes to make sure it stays locked well. Mainly, the thing is that if you put these on, we would recommend most of the time of actually leaving the switch off. So that there's a switch right on the operator so that kids can't hit the button and open the door. And in a lockdown scenario, it's not going to operate. But so this is only for when you have a student or a teacher that is wheelchair bound that you would need access to this. So it could definitely be deferred.
So in addition to the hardware though, did you say the door had to be widened?
This is the way to get around widening the door. You can leave the door in its niche, and as long as someone in a wheelchair can press the button, the door will open by itself, and they don't have to have the clearance to pull the door open. So, I had it in here as recommending, but it's very easily deferred. It's something, what the scope is, you have our specs on it. Something comes up, Mark can always implement it on the fly if he had to. Classroom HVAC, we kind of knew this from the start. This is a cost scope outside of the budget. This is all the air conditioning at Dunn's. So we're recommending moving that to a future capital. Site lighting, this is a site safety concern that the principal brought up. I had added it to the project late. It was never in the estimates originally because we never had that scope. Again, if it's something you want to implement now, you could implement it later, but it could involve trenching of asphalt. So I don't know if we want to at least think about, if you're not going to do the full lighting, at least put in conduits to cross the main roads so that you can get wiring to the other sides of asphalt. So we can talk about that if you don't approve that tonight. Basement work was a cost-cutting move that we made around DD to leave the basement as is, no changes in paint or flooring. It's all stable right now, just leave it as is. Well, stable-ish. So we were saying leave that as is for now. At Springbrook, again, the classroom HVAC is the air condition, the remaining rooms. It was about, I think, 8 or 10 rooms, something like that, in that building that remained unair conditioned. We recommend moving that to capital. The stage removal, we've always had this as an alternate. It's just an issue because the lift is not working right now, so the ADA can't get up on the stage. So we would recommend approval on it if you want to spend the money on that. The final one is builder's risk insurance. This is something that Downs had requested we add late in the bid to make sure we had basically 2 options for builder's risk insurance. The town is currently pursuing getting a quote for builder's risk insurance. And we don't sell insurance. We really don't know what the best course of action for this is. So I don't know, I'm sorry to put Deb on the spot here, but I don't know.
I talked to Joe about it. He thought it was a good rate.
Yeah.
We know it's lower than everyone else's. We did ask them about it, and they said they do get good rates from their agency. And
So just for the sake of other members of the building subcommittee that may not be aware of exactly what this type of insurance is, can you just give the elevator speech?
I will try to do that. Maybe you can assist me a little bit because it's essentially this covers the loss of any use of the facility due to contractor error, I believe. Is that the basic intent of it? I've always had someone else provide it, so I've never really dived into detail on it.
Right.
More or less, Deb, anything you want to?
Right, and it also covers the project while it's under construction too. So we're putting the addition on Dunn's, and while that's going up, let's say it catches on fire or something, that insurance would cover that.
Yeah.
The damage to, or into the existing building that was caused by the construction.
Yeah, there was a project in Worcester about a year ago that the high school was putting a new roof on and the insulation caught fire. And so that would cover the loss of the material that literally combusted
Yeah.
on the building as well as any damage.
It's a common thing for public projects. I think the reason why this was an alternate is we just didn't know whose bucket
Right.
that would, come out of.
Yeah.
I did follow up with Eileen, her agency requires an extensive application. It's very extensive, actually, I had time to get to it today, but I checked with Eileen, and she said it could take up to 2 weeks to get a quote back. She said they're not usually jumping on the spot. So I don't know what the committee thinks, but we could take it, first of all, we have a good rate, or we could take it, and if the town comes back with a better rate, we could change order it back to.
Yeah, the coverage is for the duration and the bid amount, the duration of construction, so through August of next year.
Mhm.
And for the bid amount of the 15.8.
So for everyone's reference in Deb's, Downs's global budget, that amount is included in the summary, correct? Let's see, builder's risk insurance for Dunn's at 32,108, and for Springbrook 17,890.
Yes, I
So-
proportioned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, proportioned it in there.
Okay,
But you took the amount from the
It
50,000.
has
Yeah.
been 50, yes.
Yeah. So even though it's on that side of the ledger, it would be part of the contractor's, pot.
so, obviously, a contractor would like to know what alternates are being accepted at the time of contract execution.
Yeah.
Is there any opportunity to retroactively add these alternates or reprice them with the contractor at, times subsequent to this?
Yes, that's a good question, and I know where you're going with that. We could revisit any or all of these at any point during construction. It would be a change order at that rate, so it would be a different price than what it is now. It could be better if the economy's better.
Well, you
Most
probably-
likely would be higher.
You probably, not to cast aspersions on bid numbers, but those are very round numbers.
Yes.
So you would
Yes.
probably get a more detailed breakout of costs, et cetera.
Correct.
They're very round, but they're consistently lower than the other bidders by a certain margin. So
Let me go back real quick here.
it's interesting.
Yeah, like you see here, this exterior soffit's 25,000. It was 106 and 170. That number to me is suspect.
Yeah.
The, 111, 110, 173 for the operators. Maybe that's an electrician that was higher rated. For that, million for the HVAC, very round number, 1198, 1285. It's in the ballpark. But in general, they are low. They were lower on all their alternates across the board. So.
So, Mark, your guys did the stage removal at Dunn's already. What's the capacity to do the same over at Springbrook?
We can do that.
The only,
Isn't that stage different, much different than it was on Dunn's?
It is a little different. It's kind of recessed inside.
Right.
yeah, and we were planning on putting a little niche in and just to store equipment off the court and then turn the rest of it over to a combined gym storage and music storage. So we got an additional storage closet for both of those programs. The one bit of information, that you guys might not be able to do is there's an electric panel on that stage that we can't do what we did at Dunn's and leave the platform and have a little stair going up. We actually need to lower that panel, because it would just take up way too much space on Springbrook.
And that cost is in the 35,000.
That scope is in 35,000. So we could just say, what's it gonna cost? So we could do a change order later saying, just lower the panel and you do the rest of the demo.
Does that include getting the closet space and storage?
35.
I believe it does include putting up the wall there and all that kind of removing the curtains, putting the doors in, things like that.
Removal of the stage isn't a full savings of 35.
No, you're gonna have an electrical item in there, whatever cost that's gonna be.
Can I ask a question about a different alternate?
Mhm.
The classroom HVAC, I get that it's outside of the budget, but are we doing anything to improve the air flow, the air quality at those two schools? I know we ended up doing something different at the new State Street that wasn't air conditioning, but it was, you probably could, yeah.
Yeah, Dunn's relies on natural ventilation through windows, given the age of the building. It doesn't have any fresh air system at all right now, and that was never in the cards to put as far as this budget. We are improving the two or three classrooms that we're touching in Dunn's. We are improving those because the code requires that we bring them up to snuff. Springbrook, we're improving the media center, unit because there is no fresh air at all in the, media center right now. The classrooms do get some fresh air right now through the unit ventilators.
I know for a fact at Springbrook, the level that's the second level up is awful in the early fall and like late spring when before we like awful. So I don't know.
The reason why I asked the first question is that I think the final piece to kind of come into play is what the actual bid numbers will be for State Street. That's why I think the idea of, seeing where that lands, like, let's have a discussion about the recommended ones now, knowing that we have line items and an order of magnitude about adding some of these larger ticket items in. When we see where State Street went out to bid Tuesday of this week. So within a few weeks, we are going to have hard bid numbers on that. And maybe there's enough economy that we can start pulling in some of these other.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And also just now I realized that, Eileen had us, write the bid form that the prices are good for 120 days. It'll be interesting if we get pushback on that, but there is a theory that we could sign the contract at 15.8. And then if we want to enact these change orders within the next 60 days, we might be able to keep that price. We'd have to obviously ask the contractor who's going to honor that price, but that's another option. No. So moving on for now, unless there's any more discussion on this. Yeah.
The HVAC at Springbrook, you said it was about 8 spaces.
I think it's about 8 or 10, yeah.
Are those second floor classrooms or those different, different?
They're
parts of the building?
sporadic around. There's a few on the first floor, a few on the second floor, and there's several in the kindergarten wing as well. I don't remember the exact amount, but it was essentially all the classrooms would be air conditioned if we went with that amount.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Duns Corner's basement, we weren't planning on doing anything with that.
The only space that the kids are currently programmed in down there is the OTPT, and that's a limited impact. Once the kids are out of that basement, it's up to you, the district, what you do with that space. It was talked about turning it into band or storage.
I don't think you can do any of those options unless you abate that room.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I would recommend, we're already in that school that we're abating, we add on the basement to it. Maybe not do anything else to the basement, but at least you get that prepped and ready for future use.
What's the cost of that?
That one, 125. That includes all new paint, new floor. The thing with abating it is that I think we have a little bit of knowledge of when the contractor wants to abate it. I'll get into that in a minute. And you still need to use it as a cafeteria, and the raw concrete probably wouldn't be a good floor for a cafeteria for a year and a half. So.
Well, we could put vinyl over the tile downstairs.
You could do what you're doing now, the floating floor, but it's a very large space,
It is a
so.
large space, and it is 9 by 9 underneath it.
I mean, you'd have to compare the cost against the pavement. True. You'd have to pull it up and put something else down, or just put something down.
Yeah, they got everything mobilized, they're abating upstairs. And to have them come back again to abate it if you wanted to eventually, your premium goes up to mobilize again.
We could try to get a breakout number on that, from the contractor, and again, and that it within the next 60 days, once we know what the State Street number is, and that can come back into the conversation.
Well, it's a separate containment. I'm guessing you're not.
Because it is the basement.
Yeah. And under the sequencing, you would not, because we would be using that cafeteria for the 24-25 school year, we wouldn't be abating the floor anyway, would we?
If you did it in the summer of 24, you could abate it. If it's in really bad shape, you could abate it, put a new floor down right away. Or you could do it in summer of 25, as long as the contractor is going to be complete with the new addition on time. Then you're not gonna reuse that space at that point.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So doesn't it kind of also matter, like, what's it going to be used for? Because if it's gonna be used for a closet, I don't know that we want to put that much money in it. You know what I mean? If students aren't gonna be down there, or, which is, I thought, kind of the goal, right, to get them out of there.
It was the younger grades we couldn't keep down there because of the fire egress stairs.
Well, I know, but I
Yeah.
also know parents want all the kids out
Yes,
there.
and that was the driving force behind the bond to begin
Right.
with.
I agree.
Any other conversation?
So go ahead, Chris.
Just a general, question about this contractor. Sure you've worked with them before, they.
Yeah,
Contractor and
I have some slides to get into that.
Oh, okay.
So,
If you leave the basement and Dunn's like it is, do you have to abate? Do you have to do you have to abate it?
you can leave it as long as it's surviving, and it's stable. Mark has given me the look, it's probably on its last legs, it's probably starting to pop.
We need to get the kids out of there quick.
No, that's the,
Yeah.
right. I
Okay.
agree.
I haven't been down there, so I don't know.
Are we gonna make another year, in your opinion?
Yeah, we're gonna encapsulate it again, we'll wax over it and seal it up.
So my original recommendations were the three items, DC2, which was the door operators, DC4, which is the site lighting, and SV2 for the stage removal. And then we've now talked about a few others, pulling them in and out, changing the scope and stuff like that. So this information is kind of moved on the bottom of the slide at this point. I was asking for another 235, bringing the savings down to 809, but we can table that if we're just going to award for the main project right now.
Well, I guess I'll, just take the temperature of the rest of the subcommittee. I agree with your recommendations. I'd personally like to see where we are with, where we are globally at the end of the State Street bid. And it sounds like we have a mechanism that allows us to hold these prices until we have that information.
Yeah, I'd like to not increase their, we might have to pay a bond increase if we go with a change order. That's the only thing that would be a markup that we wouldn't anticipate with that number. So they might go up a little bit, but
But the alternate should have language that it should be inclusive of all premiums.
it should,
profits.
yes, yeah. Something we, with the committee's permission, if you award to this contractor, I can talk to them, find out what their feeling is based on the input. I did make them aware in our vetting meeting yesterday that there is a third project and we're trying to manage all three together as one bond amount.
I'm guessing they're probably gonna be going after this third project.
I don't think so.
No?
No, I just have a hunch. I don't think they would. No.
Yeah, this is kind of what I know of the contractor. This is kind of in their sweet spot of
Correct.
size. Yeah.
So, Here's where we're gonna talk a little bit about Tower. Tower, de-scoping happened yesterday. We had Eileen and Mark on the call along with Deb and myself. Al Poulos, which is one of the principals at the company, as well as Derek, where's it, Papa?
Office.
Yeah, Pappas, who's the chief estimator. We went through a bunch of questions. We documented all this that we can circulate to the committee if you want. They didn't say anything that would give us alarm, in regards to making sure all the hazmat is owned, making sure that second shift premium time is owned where they plan to use it, things like that. They did talk about, wanting to hit the ground running, on this project. However, they will not extend contracts to their subs until they have a contract themselves with the town. It's obvious because they need to have insurance and everything in place. So that puts us at a spot where if we follow the schedule that I'll show in a slide or two, getting school committee approval on the first, getting an intent to award on the second from the town to the contractor. Then we have to go through the town solicitor to make sure the contract is correct and all that. So we're hoping that can happen as quickly as possible, so that we could, hopefully have a contract signed and executed by the middle of May.
Why do you need to increase the contingency?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So just to give you a background, we've had 3 projects with Tower in the last, that's now 11 years, all public work. They do a lot of public work. I know they've been doing a lot of Massachusetts public work lately, which is really a whole nother animal, which is a lot more complicated than Rhode Island. So Deb and I think I can speak for both of us that we're fairly confident in their bid amount and their qualifications to do the project. So with that, we're going to be looking for a request for approval of the bids, of the bid, and award and recommend award to the school committee for Tower construction. And we can leave it as the base bid for right now. I can pull that number up. Actually, yeah, the 15,884 amount.
So, how does everybody feel about, understanding that we're gonna verify that there's no issue with executing the contract and then pulling in the alternates?
Mhm.
Is everybody comfortable with that until we understand where we are in State Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we do need so our motion would be a recommendation to the school committee to award the contract to Tower Construction in the combined amount of $15,884,000 for Dunn's Corner and Springbrook.
So
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
All right, so now I'm going to get to the contingency. And I realize that something happened since I did this. Currently, let me rephrase that. Currently, as of this morning, we had at 8.4% at a contingency of 1.334. Why would I recommend bringing it up to 10? And this is completely, up to you guys, how you feel comfortable with it. There was a $3 million gap between Tower and the next bidder. And if there's any fact that they might have left something out or felt that there was a loophole or something that was not owned, there is an exposure there. And typically on a ad reno, we like to see 10%. But the reality of it is, that number on your budget sheet was reduced to 5%. So that,
on them if they forget something?
as long as it's in our documents,
Right.
yes. Yes, there's always a chance that we miss something. We try to keep our E&Os to a professional level, errors and omissions. Typical change orders on a project, you know, you'd be lucky if you're above 3%, or you don't want to be above 3%, but.
So, there is a standard of care. There will be change orders on every single project. There's no, this is where I give my pitch. You know, every project is a prototype, so it's not like we can assume that our engineers and our designer and our architect has detailed or seen every single condition within the project. There are oftentimes hidden conditions or unforeseen conditions that may be lurking behind walls that were not apparent in any of the information that we have. So those things are the reasons for contingencies. And, you know, it's just, there's no project is going to be perfect with zero change orders in a public project. So I think Ashley is correct. While I would love to have 100% contingency on every project, I think we're at a point where we need to look at what a responsible number is and kind of reevaluate the distribution of any additional contingency after we understand what the State Street bid is.
No, I understand that. And just to let you know, things like soils, a lot of times we have problems where we might find rock, especially in Westerly with the granite. We do have some quantity allowances and monetary allowances in the base documents to cover some of those large scale items. It goes quickly if you run into it, especially with the amount of excavation we're doing for the septic and the stormwater. But, you know, the geotech seemed to indicate that it was fill, it was sand. You never know that 10 feet away from that drill, it was a big boulder or a big, massive rock. So, but we do have some coverage in that. So I could, but I'm not going to ask for a vote on this. I just wanted you guys to consider the possibility that in the end, because it's an ad reno, we're doing a lot of existing work in the existing building, that we might want to bump it up a little bit.
Do we know if their previous project change order rates are sort of consistent with that 3%? Or do they have a reputation of being right there, or they come in higher or lower? Do we have any sense of that?
I tried to look at the 3 projects that we had done with them. I actually personally did the Davies High School project with them. The problem with that was definitely unforeseen conditions and owner ads. So it skewed.
Yeah. Right.
It skewed the amount on that particular project. So the North Kingstown was a historic project. So there's often not historic documents from an old building. So there was definitely a lot of existing conditions in that one that caused some. But again, I think that it was probably in the same market, but. Okay,
Do people, listen, I'm not in this stuff, so do people bid low purposely and then depend on change orders to get more money out of people?
They usually don't survive long because they get that reputation, I found.
yeah, there are ones that are very skilled at doing it and know how to walk that line of, and they're, you know, that's how they aggressively get, projects. So.
But you haven't seen that with this company.
There are always going to be conversations with
Yeah.
every contractor on every project. And with those either perceived gaps in scope versus, you know, owned work that is part of the documents.
Yeah, there's always those obscure spec sections that we put as architects in the spec that cover us, but not everyone reads them.
Right, unfortunately, that's the downside of public bidding, is, you know, people can't say, well, I'm gonna carry this amount that we've seen. I can put a little extra in here, because that could be what they lose the bid by, so.
Yeah, I'll show you when we get to the roof projects that the bids, the final number are separated by $7,000. So, that's how tight sometimes these get. So you don't want to pad your number any more than you really need to. So just a quick update on the main project. I tried to get an update on DEM. freshwater wetlands, they had some comments. Our engineers responded to them. Now we're waiting on final approval. That is holding up our septic approval, which is then holding up the start of the Board of Health that I just submitted this week. It's all a trigger right now. As soon as we get freshwater wetland, the rest of the dominoes are gonna fall. So, we've got plenty of time on this, but, Tower did mention some of the early summer work they wanted to do this year included abatement at Dunn's because they want to get that out of the way so they're not shutting the building down next summer. They talked about trying to get the septic system in, but there's a 6 to 8 week lead time on that, so I don't know how the logistics work of that with the contract and the submittals and all that. So we have to have a discussion with that. As I said, I submitted to Board of Health. No update from the Governor's Commission. It's still in our court to discuss that. Right now, the tower's bid does include the playgrounds. They did tell us that that lead time was about 40 to 42 weeks for the equipment. So we would need to have a decision on what we're doing with those playgrounds by summer this year in order to get them installed by next year. So we still have a couple months to figure out how we want to respond to Governor's Commission regarding the play surface. The school committee next week on the 1st, I'm asking the committee a question on this. Would you need me to do the same presentation to that committee? Or would someone from this committee be advocating, or just how does that process work? I haven't.
I think it would be good for the committee to interact with you.
Okay,
I would agree.
Yeah,
okay,
we can answer some of the questions, but they may have questions that we can't answer.
okay. And that's typically 5 o'clock at town hall, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
There will be executive session next week though, so probably usually go on no earlier than 6.
I can be there too.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably still be there at 5.
Executive session.
We could move executive session.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that. So let me talk to the chair about that.
Because we're gonna have both bids coming to the school committee, next week, both the roof and the main project.
Okay, yeah.
So,
We continue to remind the school committee that we're very happy with the work that our architects are doing. It would be good to be there.
okay, and just let me know if there's any additional information that they want to see, if they want to see the renderings again or anything like that. I mean, this is very dry information, but it's the meat of why we're coming before them.
It wouldn't hurt to have the renderings. It's just such a nice, like, even if you ended with that, it's like a beautiful, it makes people happy.
And it's, televised, and people
Right.
probably watch it more than they watch this meeting.
Yeah.
But they throw one up there at the end or beginning.
So, with an anticipated, approval of the school committee on the 1st, we would, ask the town to issue an intent to award or a notice to award on the 2nd. So we can get the contractor moving on some early things. Those early things include, obviously, we talked about the contract, the solicitor, and getting it signed by all of us, involved with the project. He's gonna want to issue contracts to his subs, ones that we're thinking of that are long lead items like electrical, the playground equipment, if we keep that in the project. Mechanical, steel, concrete. He wants to try to get the foundations in this summer or early fall, which would then allow him to enclose the building, early fall or late fall. He's thinking brick is not till the spring right now. That was what he was mentioning to us. But we want to get the submittals for some of those early, packages, into us by middle to late May so that we can get them out and procured. That way we get the most time available for things like electric gear, generators, RTU units.
He actually said the electrical gear was up to 5 weeks.
52 to 55 weeks. Right.
Yeah, wow.
So, we're also, we would have, once he's on board with a contract, then he can submit the documents for permit. And that would give the town until July 1 when they're actually starting to do work to review. So that'll give them 6 to 8 weeks to do the actual review. We also want to have those construction phasing meetings with the contractor and admin. Unfortunately, it puts the packing and prep of the schools into June. I will try to improve that as best we can, but we won't have a schedule from them until middle to end of May. But we'd like to know if they are doing the abatement, what rooms that Mark has to empty and pack up, load up the gymnasium or wherever we're gonna put it, or get containers at Springbrook or whatever, however they're gonna do that work.
And some are classrooms, right? Or- Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be.
We'll also have, the GC is asked to do mobilization right as soon as the kids are out of school, so even though we have construction starting on July 1, if, with your permission, and we'll obviously go through the process, but they'd like to get started on the 21st, right as soon as the kids are out of the building. So that is the main project. Is there any questions on that?
So Mark, in the summer, we generally mostly empty the rooms anyway, so do the floors, correct?
We pull them out one at a time.
One at a time.
Yeah, so we kind of have the hallways with rows of chairs and tables and do a room. As we're putting that one, we're prepping the other one, pulling that one out.
Part of the problem is that in Dunn's, we're redoing, actually in both schools, we're redoing the quarters. So you would have to basically create sections in the gym, I would think, would be the place to put it. And every classroom gets put in those locations.
Unless they're doing the gym floor in Springbrook as well.
If they're doing the gym floor at Springbrook, yes, then that's a whole nother, yeah, that's what we need to find out. We need to know exactly what they're doing. I think they're gonna try to focus on Dunn's for the flooring, is the way it sounded for this first summer, because there's no abatement in Springbrook.
Is it just like, I know when we prepare for the summer, it's like what you take out, everything type on the floor. You know, so like, is that all it is? Or, you know, obviously there's open shelving and bookshelves and.
We have to find out what scope they want to do, if they want to try to paint those rooms as well. But typically, if they're just abating the floor, they'll put the plastic right over the casework and the walls and leave everything there. They'll just put the plastic floor to ceiling on all the walls and windows.
That will save.
Yeah.
A lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
If that's possible, I don't know.
But they want to paint at the same
But
time.
if they want to paint, I know, right, that's gonna be.
Yeah, that's the problem is that
Monumental.
we're gonna redo the floors and then next summer or over school vacation, you're gonna have to consolidate to the middle of the room, take everything off the walls and then paint. So it's a matter of how many mobilizations, different subs, you know, we don't really know yet. That's why we need it. They're ready to be involved very extensively with us.
So Ashley, if they start on the 21st, once the kids are gone,
Mhm.
the teachers are typically still there for at least a week or so.
This would be, they're not starting construction
Okay,
until the
So they
first.
could.
This is them putting up fencing,
Oh.
Jersey barriers, their trailer, getting electric to the trailer, things like that.
So it's what.
Yeah, should be okay. We'll have a early mobilization, a 30-day schedule, very early on, and then we'll have a full schedule
Right.
after that.
And like I said, as soon as teachers can know what it's gonna be, the sooner the better.
So on to the roof project. We had presented this slide last 2 weeks ago. We have done a little bit more digging. We got some reference checks for A&M and completed projects. They're both very capable firms, the two low bidders, A&M and Commercial. I got the impression from the committee that you were looking at probably approving the shingles instead of the standing seam. But I want to leave that open to the committee for interpretation. I did it based on the shingles, my math, but we can do the quick calculator if that changes. The issue that I brought up last time is that once we start accepting the alternates, the bidder changes. Because the shingles are a lot more cost effective from Commercial at 257,000 as opposed to 282. That switches the two bidders, unfortunately, for A&M. But if we're gonna move forward with the way this committee wanted with the full roof project for the entirety, we would recommend the 1,208,000 plus the alternate 1 and 2. So that would be, what was it here? It would be this, 1,482,000 for, an award to commercial roofing.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or concerns with that methodology? I think this is in line with what we discussed at the last meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if the committee wanted to take a vote on standing seam versus shingle. I think the general consensus, and I don't want to speak for the committee, was just a little bit more fiscal responsibility of not spending a couple $100,000 more on the other one. So,
I think that's what we talked about.
yeah. So,
You want to make your one last pitch for standing seam?
Not even gonna try.
My position is that we can shingle the roof 2 times over for the cost of the standing seam.
we are speccing as a basis of design, a certainty landmark shingle, which is like a 250 to 300 pound shingle per square. So it's a heavy duty architectural grade shingle. It's got I think a 30 or 40 year warranty on it. So it's a good shingle, and we have snow tabs over the doorways, and so it's gonna be better than what you have now.
So so you need a formal motion. The motion would be similar to the last one, was a recommendation to the school committee to
Correct.
award to commercial roofing in the amount of
1,482,000.
inclusive of the base bid plus alternates 1 and 2.
Yeah, alternate 1 is the downspout replacements around the building, and then alternate 2 is the shingle work.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Okay.
Okay.
So just a quick budget update. We don't have this on our grand budget sheet because it's a separate capital project, but right now we're forecasting with a 10% design, or not design, 10% construction contingency. We're looking at a savings of $236,000 right now back into the capital coffers. I don't know how that works, whether you get it back or it disappears into the void of the town or not, but
Well, I think it stays within your guys. I don't know. Maybe you don't answer that question. No.
and any contingency we don't spend, obviously, would also be returned, back to the town. So
I mean, there are obviously some items that we've identified at Duns and Springbrook that are deferred capital projects that may be an opportunity to pull the trigger on some of those with this capital money.
correct.
The thing that I think we need to reconcile is whether or not that needs higher pay grade approval to move that money or not. I don't know.
All right, so I'm going to tell you an update tell you a tale of woe, I guess is the way I'm going to put it. The RIDE submission issues. I went back one. So as you remember, last time we submitted on the 13th of March, we got a rejection of the CD submission on the 2nd from Dr. De Silva, who said that we need to go through the whole process. So we asked Joe DeSanti at Downs to review with Dr. De Silva before he went away. We got the confirmation and we did have to go through this process. So we put together progress files from earlier in the job. We didn't really have distinct stages to go through on this project. We submitted it on the 8th. It got rejected again on the 16th. More information that they were requesting capital funding documents, and we found an MOA that had the roof project in it, so we were using that. We took the Garland conditions report that had some estimated values and extrapolated a full budget from that. And submitted everything back to them on the 24th, which is today, with the explanation that this project has already been bid, it's already been approved for CDs, it's ready to be awarded, it's under budget. Please, SD and DD is a formality, please expedite. We'll see where that goes. What I would like to do, and I don't think I had it on a slide, but I think you had it on your agenda.
I do, I have it as an action item on the agenda to,
I need meeting minutes that show approval of the SD submission and the DD submission from this committee. And it's literally a piece of paper that will tell the bride that we have approval to go to bid. And you would have never gotten to that point if the CDs weren't approved and we were on budget. So.
It's just, can we do that with a quick memo co-signed by Justin and myself?
Yeah, I think we need to make a formal motion, at this level so that it shows up on, meeting minutes.
Yeah.
the review, contractors at this point are very literal. So if it says, they
Yeah.
need to see meeting minutes, they need to see meeting minutes. Or reject it once again.
Yeah, they even asked for us and, Justin, commented on it, about that they asked for a hazmat survey of the building, even though it
A
was
building that was
built.
a building that was built in the mid-90s, which is, 16 years after asbestos was, prohibited by law to be in the building materials.
But thankfully, at the time, RIDE required this letter that Mark was able to produce from the original design architect back in the 90s that said there's no asbestos in this building. So we provided that, so that solved that one issue.
They accepted it.
Well, I don't know, I submitted it. I hope.
So not to denigrate our partners at RIDE who have been reviewing an enormous amount of work. For those that may have heard this previously, they're anticipating bidding somewhere around $3.5 billion in school construction in Rhode Island this year. And for the most recent stage 2 applications that were in February, there were 12 other districts that submitted stage 2 applications for a total of another $1.5 billion in the requests. So I know that they have been underwater. And I know that they traditionally, the project managers or the plan reviewers that historically have been the boots on the ground reviewing these with the project teams are simply doing other things, and they've outsourced some of these reviews to other consultants. And I think that's where some of this is getting tripped up, where there's usually a spirit of cooperation and moving projects through, understanding that reason needs to prevail in some of these cases like this project here. The letter of the submission checklists are being followed to a T.
They're actually expanding the amount of information they're requesting beyond the submission portal, which
Yeah.
was kind of a shock.
So,
So I'd like if someone would make a motion for that would be great.
you want 2 independent motions?
I think I'm gonna
Go up
need
in
to.
2 different.
Yeah,
So
with different minutes.
At 6:55, we will approve the SD, and at 6:56, we'll approve the
Exactly.
D.
Yes.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the SD RIDE submission for the Springbrook roof replacement project?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
So we need a similar motion and vote for the design development submission.
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
thank you. I know it's silly, but we wanna give them what they need, so.
It's called good government.
I'm hoping that once we get past this initial hurdle, the DD will go quick, and CD we already have. So the couple items that they knocked us on, the CDs will be able to provide, and maybe it'll speed up. I am concerned, a little bit with the, construction submittals, for this project and the start and finish. We'll talk to, commercial now that we've awarded, we're intending to award to them and give them the backup on it. Hopefully Garland being a proprietary, they might be willing to do the submittals, without the notice to proceed. I think they probably would, but I can't speak for them, so.
Mhm.
So again, approval for the meeting tonight, approval at the school committee next week, award letter the same day on the 2nd of May. Same issues, we're gonna have 2 contracts being done by the town on May 2nd. So it's gonna be a little scramble from the town side if anybody needs to give them a fair warning. Submit documents for permit in May, submittals in May, start of construction July 1, end in August 31st. Again, those are all contingent upon the ride. So, and actually, I think, I didn't realize this. Your motion for the approval of the roof has to be contingent upon the ride approval. So I think you might have to redo the motion or amend the motion. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that before.
You mean, okay, wait a second. Okay, so the SD and the DD approval are probably fine.
Those are fine. It's the recommendation of commercial to the school committee for award needs to be contingent upon eventual approval by RIDE, because we're out of sequence.
And any possible comments they may have.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any parliamentarians in the House here? Typically, the way that you would bring a previous motion back is you would need somebody who voted to approve it.
You mean the person who made the motion and then the person who seconded the motion.
I think that is when you're in discussion and modifying the motion. When you are bringing something back on the table, I believe it can be any motion for, that's somebody approved, which would be any one of us, to bring this back. So, sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't catch it when you were making the motion.
I'd like to make a motion to reopen the discussion on the previously approved motion.
Okay, okay, all those in favor? Aye, all right.
Say that again.
Okay, so understanding where we are now is where we would need the original, well, actually, I believe it's a brand new motion at this point.
Yes.
Thank you. We do have a parliamentarian in the House. So the motion would be exactly as the last motion was, which is, and Rose is gonna hate going back through the minute here, so I'll try and restate it. The motion would be to approve commercial roofing for a total project budget of $1,482,000, inclusive of the base bid and alternates number 1 and 2 for the Springbrook roof replacement project, contingent on final ride approval. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? No.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
This is what Mike called good government.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, sorry it took so long, but we had to go through all the procedure.
No, that's good. So the other thing, TSKP isn't here tonight mainly because they're currently out to bid. I can report they were in front of the planning board last Tuesday and received unanimous approval at the planning board. And with that, Deb, you provided the kind of global budget breakout, which shows our total variance continuing to creep down. Correct? Okay.
Yes, and everyone has a copy of that. You can see right now we're at 1.4 million variance, which is quite an improvement over where we were at. And
50 original or something?
50, yeah.
Oh,
Honestly, considering where we were. And we're getting some really great activity on the State Street project. I'm already getting questions in. The first company to pull a big package was O&G, Justin. And, they're very interested in the project, so we'll see. Yeah, we'll see who shows up for the pre-bid next week.
Are there any questions, to Deb regarding this? So really where this is gonna become real, is once we get the State Street numbers. Assuming that we may see some economy, a similar proportion of economy, that we saw in the Dunn's Corner and Springbrook project. I am cautiously optimistic, here, so.
Could, either Deb or Ashley forward the language that Rory will need to put your presentation on the agenda for next Wednesday?
Yeah.
And the approval of the bid, right?
Yeah, you need the motion ahead of time, that's right. Yeah, I can do that.
Thanks.
It's gonna be two motions, because it's gonna be one for the roof, one for the main project.
Great.
The one thing that I would say, Ashley, is I do think that the kind of project overview, the slides of the site plan, the floor plans, the renderings, and maybe a simplified version of what the bid numbers are.
Yeah.
Will be effective.
Agreed. Yeah, if we could do that, and then those two votes, that'd be great.
And I'll spare the project timeline stuff and the ride, ride stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? So this is TKSP's first time in Rhode Island, right? So how familiar are they with RIDE? I know we talked about that already. I mean, they need assistance. I mean,
Well, I'm working with them, yeah, I'm working with them, and Joe, when we need to reach out a little farther, they're getting the same pushback as Ashley is right now on their CD. They had an email sent to them with all kinds of additional requirements. And Julia's been working through that, but
I just don't have delays. It's all-
yeah, we don't have CD approval right now, and we need CD approval to award. So we have a few weeks and we're working diligently on it, but, the biggest problem right now is the people who are reviewing. I don't know if they feel comfortable actually approving a project to move forward, so. Joe's working on that.
Okay, any other questions for Deb, related to these three projects? Otherwise, pretty good news, since the last time that we've met.
Good job, Ashley.
Yes, thank you, Ashley. So item number 7 is capital projects update. We have, locker room renovations and a review and vote for submission to RIDE and approval to advertise bids. Now, this was Studio J. Tracy gave us an overview of the locker room renovations last time, because we didn't have a motion or on the agenda. We stated that we put it here. So does anybody have any questions about what we reviewed at our last meeting related to the locker room renovations at the high school? Okay, so what is the specific motion that you are looking for? Is it construction CDs or approval of the project?
It's basically approval of the project and the approval of this committee to go out to.
Okay. So the approval would be for construction documents for locker room renovations to be submitted to RIDE. I think we're going to do this in 2 motions. Okay, we're motion happy today.
And I apologize, Tracy, couldn't be here.
I talked to Tracy, she was in the same meeting that I was in last night. I said, look, if we're just regurgitating the stuff before, I think we can handle this. She said she was going to be here though, so she must have been a change of heart. So the first motion would be approval of the construction documents and submission to RIDE for the high school locker room renovations.
So moved.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The second motion would be to approve the advertisement of bidding for the high school locker room renovations.
So,
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Anything else, Mark? Okay. I think we're breaking records today for the amount of motions we're making. Item number 8 is next steps. Audrey, I know you sent me an email about wanting to review the logistics plan before talking, the logistics plan of State Street before actually getting in this, presenting anything or engaging the senior center. Okay, so that makes sense, considering that we have not been able to establish this meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm up to 7 phone calls now. I think I'm going to be arrested for stalking.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, yeah. I did stop by there too, but yeah.
Okay. Let me, I think maybe we engage some of the other partners in town that may be able to have more influence. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Justin.
Okay, so I think we've been talking about next steps in terms of, making sure that where we are in the calendar, you know, before everybody breaks for the year, there's some communication, strategy for letting the folks at Dunn's, well, I guess all 3 elementary schools know that when they come back to school in the fall, the sites are the buildings are gonna be operating a little bit differently.
Right, but it is contingent upon what we're gonna hear from the contractors, correct?
Yes.
How much gets done this summer. So we know we have to do that. We also know, as we just talked about a few minutes ago, we have to figure out how we arrange for the summer work in terms of the classrooms, everything, furniture, whatever. But hopefully within a few weeks, we'll have a better handle on what we should expect in the fall. I would think.
So what we're likely gonna need from Ashley's team and Julia's team is some sort of site diagram that shows in a graphic way areas of the site, because regardless of what we're doing on the inside of the building at Dunn's, we're gonna be partitioning off the area for the cafeteria addition, so that it can be built. So that west end of the site is going to be different.
Building access, parking.
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah, we have, a full presentation that we gave to, Steve and Jen, the principals. And it was modified to, reflect the new construction schedule. So we have that available. We just want to get buy-in from the contractor that they're gonna do it the same way.
So much in the same way that you're putting together kind of a summary presentation for the school committee's consumption of high level, this is what we're doing in each site. I think if we can co-opt that with, you know, as a, okay, these are the projects, they both are potentially emailed as a PDF and put on our district website for people to access, as well as a site logistics plan.
Even better, what I'd like to see is taking this presentation and creating video presentations, perhaps narrated, voice recorded by the principals, and posted to the school sites and the district site.
Okay.
So staff will know. I mean, it's easier to share with staff at a faculty meeting between now and the end of the year, but parents will know what to expect as well. Do
Okay,
you have any other meetings scheduled with Steve and Jen?
I do not. The good thing about Dunn's and Springbrook is that we're essentially keeping the traffic flow for both parents and buses, uninterrupted.
Yeah.
We're just like shifting the buses over and paving a little area of the island to get them away from the edge of the building. Parent drop-off's gonna stay the same, parking's gonna stay the same. It's just they're gonna see a lot of commotion and they're gonna be concerned that their kids are safe when they get dropped off the bus.
Sure.
Because they're gonna be dropped off on one side of construction and have to circulate around it. to get into the main entrance. So, and we have, pictures that show what that protection is gonna look like.
So you already shared that with them.
Yes.
They have, and I'll have that conversation with them tomorrow about how we put that together in a way. Because even if the news is the traffic pattern is gonna remain unchanged, that's something we should share with parents. It'll just lessen their anxiety or take that one thing off the table. So I'll talk to both of them tomorrow about that.
Okay,
Recognizing that it's not exactly solid until we get confirmation. Buy-in, as Ashley said.
But I do agree that it would be good to have a canned response that when they're asked by a staff member or a parent.
Yeah.
Or anyone, they can just send it off.
Yeah,
It's gonna have all the information.
screencast, I guess. Isn't that what your kids call that?
Yeah, it's screencast. You, kids,
screencast, is that
podcast.
like going from the phone to the,
No,
You need
video,
over,
video.
speak over.
Oh,
over
screen
your slides. It's like a slides, you speak.
okay.
See, I was making fun of myself and you.
And I didn't even pick up on it, so. All right, okay, anything else for next steps? Okay, hearing none, there continues to be no public comment. So at this point, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Seven o'clock. Oh, 7:30.